Welcome back, everyone, to Imperium Galactica. Excited to get back into this, and we're going to hit Center 10. Important for multiple reasons, one of which is it's the first Dargslan planet with a fortress, as you may recall from the end of the last episode. And Pars Proto and I had a bit more of a back and forth, and he educated me a little more on some of the, I don't know, more annoying parts, I would call them, of combat outside of planets. And there's actually another improvement I can make, which is to knock out the space station before we hit the guns. So we're going to be focusing on that first. And I've got the grids on. Now, I'm sorry for those of you who are on mobile devices. This is going to be really hard for you to see. But it's essential to show what's going on here and to do it correctly. So I'm going to move forward some. And when you move forward to one of these grid squares, the ship will center itself on that. So I'm going to move forward slightly one more here. Now, if you take a look at this, like if we try to drop it on the line, it won't actually go on that line part. It's got to go in one grid square or the next. Now, the thing is, if you try to move these forward, backward, whatever direction, you can't move one grid square. You have to move two. But to hit this without engaging, having the guns from the planet open up at you, you have to be precise in how you move forward to, like, there's a one grid square period, one grid square range where you can actually hit the space station without them firing at. So you can't just do what I've been doing, which is move forward just the tiniest bit the ship will, because this will move forward too. And now it's firing, but if I move this one forward too, that doesn't work. And I'm just going to show this real quick. And now they fire back. So I'm just going to retreat. And so you've just got to be in that precise position. It's only the one spot that works. And what that means is a couple things here. One, we'll be able to conserve a few bombs, not a lot, but a few, on each of these battles, because we're not going to have the interference and the shooting down and all of that from the space stations. It also means the space stations are completely trivial. It does not matter how many space stations they have over a planet. So, at this point, this is also a really good example, so we're going to go through it. The 4 Meson guns and the Hyper Shield. Now, that's the best planetary defense they can have when you consider that the space stations don't matter. That's not what I wanted to do. Let's slow this down. Now, I'm going to fire all my initial bombs at the shield from the 2 Krakens, because they have the greatest store, and then I can hit from more angles and have not quite as many shot down when I go after the guns. There we go. That's the first volley. 8 and then 6 as always on the shields. And that's gone, just enough as it usually is. So now we're going to work on the guns one at a time. And I found for these 14 to 15 bombs appears to be the appropriate amount. So I'm going to start by firing off 7. Okay, see, that went pretty well. So I'm only going to do another 7. And it varies, I'm going to vary it just slightly based on how many they shoot down, what the actual damage is. And of course, as always, we're erring on the side of too many. Because I could probably get away with only firing 6 to this, maybe 5. But I want to make sure that, we have at least enough. There we go. And now we're going to hit the next one with 7. You can see it's got a slight bit of damage there. Okay. And now we'll need to go with another 7. And if we have a couple extra bombs circling in the air, that just distracts them, and so much the better. Yep, there we go. Two more of the guns that need to be silenced. Yep, now they've got a few of them floating around in the air that they're just shooting at. So I'm actually going to drop this back even to 6. And our final Meson gun here. Throw 6 at that. It's still got one more bomb floating around, but you can see that it didn't take that much damage. Now I'm going to simply... This time, I could go with probably... I mean, 6 might do it, probably wouldn't be enough. 7 might be. I'm just going to hit it with 8. I just want to make sure that it goes down. And ultimately, you know, overall, if you use 1 or 2 bombs extra in an attack, I mean, it really doesn't make that much difference. And, oh my goodness. How ridiculous. It's the health bar is actually totally gone, but it's still there. So that's exactly what I was trying to avoid. But we did get it with that couple. And there's another one floating around. Whatever. Alright, now that's finished. We want to attack the planet. I'll be using that general pattern, of course, most of it off screen, for the future attacks that we do on the planet in space. So, if we look at our area here that we can deploy, you can see that on the left, it actually isn't quite as far. It's like there's an extra row along the bottom or along the top. And given that, we want to really compress our military as much as possible. So what we're going to do is put them always along the bottom or top. In this case, right here by this rock. And here's our final setup. Now the reason for this is I want this to be a deep and not wide formation. So that way, like if they flank us from one direction or another, you know, we're going to have more tank resistance from the enemy since it is on a fortress planet. And I really want to be able to minimize our losses by just concentrating our fire in a narrow area from wherever they attack. And here they are. This is a pretty good spot right in the middle of us, and we can begin opening up, you know, with the maximum amount of concentration. And this one has taken some good hits, but we're eliminating a good amount of them as well. So I like its odds of surviving. Okay, now we need to move forward and take this last one out. So we did that with no losses. We did have some significantly damaged. We're going to want to shuttle them off to the side. And as I've done previously in the battles against the Garthogs, the fortress is up here down to only 4%. It's hard to approach on this map, kind of. We're going to want to divide our force, one side and then the other, and then of course use our fully healthy tanks, which thankfully we have quite a few left over, to commence the attack. Okay, so we have a group over here, and we have a group over here, and we're just going to rush at it in the usual pattern. The idea being to knock it down before it can destroy any of our tanks. Of course, behemoths don't move quickly, but they take the punishment and they deliver a serious blow once they get there. And if the fortress had taken more damage in the bombardment, this would help. So everybody fire. And now it's damaged, taking less resistance from it. And down it goes. And so we did in fact lose one tank here. Generally in a planet with a fortress, you might lose one or two, sometimes get away without losing any, but I will definitely take it about as clean a victory as we could expect. And of course we'll take much more losses against the more fortified planets, but this is where we are for now. A couple points worth looking at in terms of the aftermath here. Obviously we're going to need to replace the occasional tank, but that should not be a problem. And also, we have come over, just as of recently, the 500,000 mark in terms of how much income we're taking in per day. On the production side of things, we now have just enough, because there was another weapons factory on that planet, as there typically has been for them, that we can produce our bombs, if we just set this up here. Now, one bomb can come out every 10 minutes. So when we're replenishing bombs, we pump everything into that, and there it goes. Now, if we divert even the tiniest bit of production to anything else, then it isn't enough. So we will need to watch that carefully and make sure we're managing our production properly going forward. A day and a half forward to January 17th, we did take out exterior 15 here, and it was actually slightly easier. A few fewer bombs were used, some Morgath planet, we're able to get a better angle, better surrounding of the fortress, and didn't take any vehicle losses. But then I need to take another brief visit to Correctionville, population me, because I did say that there were only 4 Meson guns on these planets and that was the max. It's actually not, it's 5. I don't know why I had 4 in my head, but that's backwards, so strike that from your memory banks. And that also means that I need to even come up with a couple more cruisers in order to have enough bombs to deal with that. So we're going to stop off in Magellan 2 here, and then we will get to run into eventually Outer 13. It's going to be our first core planet that I'm going to want to take. Probably take a little over a day to get there. Now, there's been other activity back and forth. The Dargslan just took this planet, and then it's basically was Dribs, and Dargslan and Dribs have been fighting over it back and forth. But we're not quite ready to put another fleet out to deal with that, so that's just going to have to wait, particularly with taking a couple more cruisers, which means we have to build more for that fleet, and so it's just going to take some time to get all of that assembled. We are, though, building a couple more of the cruisers. I'll need at least one more than this, maybe 2. We're building the final flagship. I'm getting a couple more of the shields and ECM up. Probably need to go a little bit further on that. And then working on Meson guns and pulse lasers to throw into our ships, as we are set on vehicles and bombs for the moment. Early on the 18th, and we are ready finally for our first core world assault. But before we do that, I want to look at a couple things in the bigger picture. if we do the distribution of where all of the planets are and who owns them and all of that, you can see obviously we've continued to grow over half the galaxy. The Dargslan have 11 planets, and the Sullups have actually a little more than that. That's been the case for a while. They've been growing slowly. I feel like the Free Nation Society has been at least holding their own, maybe growing a little bit. Ecaleps and Dribs kind of hanging out where they are, and Ecom's slowly getting squeezed. Not that it matters that much other than the Dargslan, but that's where that whole picture is. And then economically, with, the continued delays to our second fleet are a little bit annoying, but they actually really don't even matter that much. It'd be nice to take out Outer 21 here. They've built up a base here. They've got just fusion projectors on there, no Meson yet, and the one base, but no fortress. So I'd like to get it before they fortify it, but our main fleet is quite a ways away, and it's going to work on this area. So that may not happen. It's going to be probably a couple days yet before we can even attempt an early assault, and we wouldn't be fully ready by then. That would just be ships and equipment and all of that. But ultimately, in the big picture, the second fleet's really just going to be sort of a bystander because of the economics and logistics of the situation. With the amount of bombs that we're going to be throwing at these core worlds, roughly 80, 85, right in that vicinity. It's 165,000, 170,000, somewhere in that range is how much money that's going to cost by itself. Then you build all the buildings you need to throw up on the planet, and you're pushing 300,000. And that's over half of a day's income. Plus, we look at what we're going to have to build here, and even at maximum speed, like the maximum speed that is possible in the game for producing bombs. The one tick per bomb, it was still going to take over half a day to replace the bombs for a full fleet to attack a planet. So it's just not possible to go even as fast as 2 planets a day. And we're going to be in pretty close quarters here, not doing a lot of traveling in between planets at this stage. So whether it's the money or just the sheer time it takes to build things, and that's not even taken into effect or into account the idea of losing ground troops. And I think this is probably going to be the first battle in which we lose a larger amount of them. You got to replace those as well. So it's just only so fast that we can push it. Alright, so we have a full array now. We have 5 Meson projectors. We have the shield. We have a Space Base 3, a Space Base 2, and a Space Base 2. So 2 of the bases aren't the fully top of the line, but as we've seen, that doesn't matter. Other than perhaps they might have more missiles. So let's go ahead and try to defend off everything here. And of course, they're going to come after my weakened cruiser. Okay. So they did a little better than I would have expected on those missiles, but we did okay. No big deal there. Now we're going to go after their bases. So let's just plop you right about there. And then we'll put you... Yeah, I'll put you one more forward. See how that does. And we're just going to wait and see. Make sure I measure this right. Okay, one more forward. And then you go forward as well. There we go. So that's the right spot. So you've just got to back up and get forward to that position. And then I can turn off the grid. Then we'll retreat and do the lovely job of bombing all these Meson projectors into so much stardust. Oh, I didn't actually finish you off. Come back here. Let's finish off that space base. There we go. Alright, first Dargslan core world assault. And all of our vehicles are working just fine underwater because of course they are. Both of their fortresses are right next to each other, which is unfortunate really. It means we're going to have to assault one while we are under fire from the other. But there's really, no two ways about that. And we're going to hang out back here and not get too close and see what they throw at us. I think we're as ready as we're going to get. Okay. There appear to be a few enemies. There appear to be one or two things coming our way. Let's see how this goes. I think I might want to swing forward a little bit of this wing. We'll just take this section and move it. Let's move it right up in here. Everybody else, you just do what you do. And I think I'm going to want to try to get some of my tanks a little more forward, although that may not be necessary, actually. We're definitely giving far better than we're getting, but at the same time, we've lost at least one. Now stop milling around there and hit it. If I can, I'd like to run the two of you away and save you. Then let's see. Let's pull a few of you forward. And go after those. We're going to be able to take out the rest here. Yeah. Let's make sure that you are all firing here. Okay, you're gone. Okay. I think that went reasonably well. Not perfectly, but reasonably well. Okay, let's reorganize then and go after these fortresses. Okay, I'm going to leave the rocket sleds out of this again. I've got the better looking tanks in front. They're going to charge in first. In just a moment, I'll put the second wave in, the damaged ones. Alright, let's go. And let's have at it. Yeah, we're gonna get pounded, we know. But go after it anyway. Then as soon as this goes down, everybody's just gonna head for fortress number 2. Now, go. Don't discuss in committee, just go. I don't think that was too bad. Let's see what the butcher's bill is. 10 tanks. Okay, that's a little more than I thought I lost. But still, we kept the great majority of our force. We're going to want to replace those, replace our bombs, and get back out here. And I have to think that's going to take at least a full day of just building, replacing the losses. So, definitely going to be a while until we see that second fleet in action at this rate. On the other hand, we just took down a Dargslan core world. They are down to 10 planets overall. So, of course, we need to set up all the necessities there. And then we will proceed on to the next target. And the final stretch now of the war is underway. The slaughtering of Dargslan, or at least conquering of their worlds, will continue next time. Till then, thanks for watching. Rocketing towards the conclusion of Imperium Galactica.